Well, hello and welcome to Wake Up with Deb. Um, it's good to see you all out there. I am also filming for YouTube at the same time that I'm filming here because I'm going to do something a little different today for everybody. Um, and I'll wait for a few minutes until other people come on. Just welcome to Wake Up with Deb today. I know that it's way past wake up time, but as we're all waking up in the world today, it's a very exciting time. And I'm just going to let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Alwon Lashmea Neath Kadesh Mach. We thank you for this opportunity. We thank you to be able to be alive during this day, to witness the change as so many of the texts have promised. And we just thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. So we're just out there today, and I was going to sleep last night. And as you all know, a lot of inspiration comes to me once I lay my head down on the pillow. And this inspiration came to me to talk to you about my book, Wake Up to the Alchemy of Your Heart. And as you all know, I have been working very hard to try to get this book on audio because I have been told over and over again that the message in this book is really important. And I have run into so many. Hi, Jeannie. Good to see you. Hey, April's on. I have run into so many issues trying to get this book on audio. So as I was laying down my head last night, I said to myself, I'm not in it to publish this book for the money. I'm not in it to write this book for the money. I'm in it to give everyone the message. And the way that I can do that for free is I can read it to you. And even as I'm speaking to you on Facebook, I'm also speaking to YouTube. I'm recording this and I'm going to put it up so that you can listen to it whenever you want to. And I'm just going to, with that, I'm just going to start reading to you. So thank you for joining me. A little bit about the book. I wrote this book and it came out on November 11th, 2011. And it was really important to me to get this message out because everybody needs to hear this. Everybody needs to hear how powerful you truly are. And I'm just going to start reading. And just want to let you know that this is written for me and for each of you. And I love you. Wake up to the alchemy of your heart. How to activate the sleeping God within you by Deborah Augenbaugh. Now, can everybody hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. All right, so I have to read this disclaimer to you. This book is designed to provide information and motivation to our readers. It is sold with the understanding that the publisher is not engaged to render any type of psychological, legal, or any other kind of professional advice. The content of each article is the sole expression and opinion of its author, and not necessarily that of the publisher. No warranties or guarantees are expressed or implied by the publisher's choice to include any of the content in this volume. Neither the publisher nor the individual author shall be liable for any physical, psychological, emotional, financial, or commercial damages, including to but not limited to special, incidental, consequential, or other damages. References are provided for informational purposes only and do not constitute endorsement of any websites or other sources. Readers should be aware that the websites listed in this book may change. Views and rights are the same. You are responsible for your own choices, actions, and results. So since I kind of surprised this on you, that I'm going to be reading this book to you, I just want to take a moment and just pause and let you, get your cup of coffee or your cup of hot tea or a glass of wine or a beer and just kick back and relax and share in this moment with me. So I've got my water here, my Flow alkaline spring water, and I'll just give everybody a couple minutes here. I am really excited to be able to present this to you and to be able to read it to you. So now if you haven't read it or if you haven't had time to read it, you can watch the video on YouTube. You can watch this Facebook video. You can, you don't even have to watch it. I mean, if you're walking outside, you've got your phone with you, just tune into YouTube and listen to it. But I wanted to give this gift to you. And like I said, I did not write this book to become a millionaire. I wrote this book to help raise the vibration. And I think in me reading it to you, I think it's gonna be big. So we're gonna start. Words of Inspiration for Love Alone by C.C. Winans. Do you sit by yourself and wonder what life is all about? If there's a purpose or a plan, or does it happen by chance? Do you ever think why things always turn out right? No matter how bad, you'll find your way again. I've learned how to keep it all together, and now I know nothing else matters. For love alone, I live my life. And from this moment on, I vow to never lose sight. If I ever doubt the reason, I'll start questioning my fears and know it's for love alone. Time flies so fast. Live each day like it's the last. Cherish what you have. When it's gone, you can't go back. Because at the end of the day, when we are face to face, I won't be afraid. I am glad to say I've learned how to keep it all together, and now I know nothing else matters. For love alone, I live my life. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women are merely players, by William Shakespeare. Again, I'm reading from Wake Up to the Alchemy of Your Heart, and this is the dedication. I dedicate Wake Up to the Alchemy of Your Heart to my dear daughter, Sky Chelsea Dawning, and my dear granddaughter, Aspen Alexander, and to all of the children and grandchildren in the world, because when every one of us opens our hearts up to the alchemy happening within us, we transmute fear into love. And together, we will make this world a better place for them. Thank you, dear Sky and dear Aspen, for choosing me to be your mom and Grandma Aramy in this life. Thank you both for being two of my greatest teachers in this life. I would also like to thank several more people who played a big part in the making of these experiences that you will soon read about. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Without your love and guidance, I wouldn't be here now sharing this great work and helping people to activate the sleeping God within themselves. Thank you so much for creating the Agamba family tree and all of the branches that have blossomed forth with the fruit that we are all bearing. Thank you to my dear wife, April Brower, whose love and support showed me a world of love with no conditions, and who chose to share this life with me. Thank you for your patience in my spiritual growth. Thank you to my dear friends Katie and Mark Uribe, who attended the classes I taught, Alchemy of Your Heart, and are living examples today of what these words mean. They are my dear friends who today are helping to wake others to the God that they are. Thank you to my dear friend Trina Wallingford, who not only opened the door for a physical space for Alchemy of Your Heart classes, but the door of the beginning of my awakening up to the alchemy of my heart. Thank you for being the great friend, mentor, and colleague that you are to me. Thank you to my dear friend Abby Parker Moneyhun for introducing me to the next level and being my white rabbit, and always encouraging me to go deeper. Thank you, my dear friend, for sharing this incarnation with me. Thank you, dear David Lawrence Palmer, the Leo King, for piquing my curiosity into the world of astrology and guiding us through this journey. Thank you to my dear friends Kim McGee and Susie Jamel for investing in me and believing in me even when I didn't see the value of who I was. Thank you to everyone who was and is playing those roles of being my soulmate and as soulmate, ASSOULMATE, in this incredible journey. Last but not least, thank you to my editor and dear friend, Valerie Rose Johnson, who polished my transcripts and channelings so that this work can be presented to humanity. I would like to share with each of you how Valerie was chosen to be my editor and the soul, SOUL, force behind ensuring this book, as well as future publications, be the bestest book that you have chosen to read. I hadn't even finished the writing of my first book when the dream came to me. As a matter of fact, I had been writing all night long because the words kept flowing and it wasn't yet time to stop. My cat Bernie was softly purring on my lap as I sat at my kitchen table while I finished typing out the last few words of the thought that was channeling through me into my fingertips and onto the screen in front of me. I shut the lid on my Dell laptop and then looked down at the small black fluffy ball curled up contently on my lap. I reached down and gently rubbed under his velvety soft chin and said, "Okay, Bernie, let's go to bed." He looked up at me with his bright green eyes and connected with mine as if speaking to me telepathically, telling me, "Yes, it is a good time to join the dream world." I looked at the clock above the stove and the digital numbers displayed 3:33. 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9. And its meaning to me is, it is finished. I quickly went through my nightly routine of washing my face, putting my dentures in the cup, and brushing my teeth. I crawled into bed and pulled up the soft Egyptian cotton sheets and laid my head down on the pillow. Lisa Transcendence Brown suggests performing the nightly routine of circling your open right hand clockwise in the air, palm facing outward, and saying, "Clear it, clear it, clear it." And when I wake up, bring on the awesomeness. I will tell you, my friends, ever since I started doing just that, my sleep has been very restful, and I wake up in the morning rejuvenated and regenerated, ready to have the bestest ever day. Anyway, after I cleared my energies and those of my resting space, I fell into a deep sleep. Soon after I fell asleep, the next thing I knew, I was in a room full of all kinds of different people. It looked like a giant restaurant. I say different because some of the things were not of this world. Some may say they were Palladian, tall people with deep blue eyes and very blonde hair. There were people that had heads like dogs and even cats. There were people that had big eyes. Everyone had some kind of jumpsuit or spacesuit on. At the front of the room was a podium that I was speaking from, and I was talking about my book. I presented the question, who will make it their mission to help me present this work to humanity? Just then, Valerie stood up from the seat she was sitting in and volunteered to be that person. Out of the thousands of people in the crowd I was standing in front of, dear Valerie Rose was the soulful, SOULFULL connection that was chosen to get this book into your hands. When I awoke the next day, I quickly texted Valerie to set up a meeting. I knew Valerie because we both went to Columbine High School together and graduated class of 1984. Valerie and I were in a few academic classes together, but we mostly knew each other from singing in concert choir together. After graduation, Valerie went on her path and I went on mine. It was over 25 years later when our paths crossed again. I had the distinguished opportunity of giving her a soul counseling, intuitive reading during part of her life when she was experiencing some very serious health issues. It was so wonderful to see this beautiful being of light and to help her see her life from a soul level. Her loving spirit and smile she expresses to all humanity helps to raise the vibration of us all on a level that is beyond words. Thank you, dear Valerie, in loving gratitude. Anyway, it was a little over 5 years later in June when I contacted her and asked her if she would help me bring this manuscript into your hands. The tears of joy run down my face as I remember her response. She was so very excited and honored that she was chosen not just by me, but through my dream, by my counsel. So, with the help of dear Valerie and the dear people in my life who have supported me, I now bring to you, wake up to the alchemy of your heart. Introduction. My story is not unlike the story of others that have come to fulfill their mission to help in raising the vibrational frequency of humanity, which helps to assist in causing the chain reaction of our hearts joining together to make this world the heaven on earth. Through my just over half century in my journey on this beautiful beautifull planet Earth, I have encountered, endured, and have become victorious over pain and suffering by actually being able to raise out of that pain and suffering vibration that in all essence I have created for myself. I now know I have a choice, and instead of choosing to continue in that lower vibrational energy wave, I have decided to love. I have decided to choose love, just as the many beautiful souls on this planet have. And through our choice, have become the healing vessels that we are today and are anchoring the heaven on earth. Looking back, memories of my childhood and even young adult life are very fuzzy. There was a time when those memories used to run as crystal clear movie and full of detail. Now, not so much anymore. You see, during my journey, I went through a great deal of health issues and ended up ingesting a plethora of pharmaceutical prescriptions. I took numerous pills, from antidepressants to antipsychotics, from stomach pills to sleeping pills, and even anti-anxiety pills. My medical doctors, as well as the psychiatrist and psychologist, would use the term off-label use in prescribing those pharmaceuticals quite often. I didn't know it back then, but using the term off-label for any medication is illegal. I found that in taking even just one prescription drug, I needed to take 2 or even 3 more prescription drugs just to soothe or cover the symptoms of the side effects from the first medication. At one point in my life, just after my daughter turned 4, I was taking handfuls of pills. One particular pill was called Neurontin, and I was taking 3,200 milligrams daily of this anti-seizure medication with the off-label use stated that it helped with neurological pain. There are hundreds of side effects that can be found at the FDA website at www.fda.com under the drug label Neurontin. 2 known side effects are memory loss and inability to reach REM sleep. I welcome you to do the research if you want to know more. I attribute my memory loss on a human level to using several of these medications. On a soul level, however, and as I continue in my soul growth, growing from being unconscious to conscious, I now view the problems with my memory as a blessing. For those pills were just an avenue, and I stand in gratitude because I know that if I had a steel trap memory, or if my photographic memory were still intact today, I may not have been able to let go of some, if not most, of what I have experienced during my 52-year journey. I know each of those experiences happened to cause a raising in my own consciousness. In my soul counseling with clients who vividly remember every detail of the traumatic situations they have experienced, they seem to find it difficult and even somewhat impossible to actually release and let go of those experiences. So, as we discover that our thoughts, feelings, words, reactions, and actions will create and actually real eyes or see with real eyes, as time progresses, the cycles will continue over. We realize that even the people who we may have first experienced the trauma with in place where the trauma occurred has most likely changed. Undoubtedly, the root core or the reason behind the traumatic experience will always remain the same. In other words, the deja vu victim experience will repeat until we become aware and make a different choice. As you continue to read my journey, I will share with you my stories of such times in my life where these cycles continued for me, thus keeping me in a victim state and limiting my power to create. For those of you that are just joining me, I am reading my book to you, Wake Up to the Alchemy of Your Heart. As I write down my memories to share with you, my intention is, as these memories come up or surface, and should I seem to have any reaction to them other than peace, I will be in gratitude as I write this book, because it will be the modality to finally release once and for all this energetic signature that has been trapped in my body memory. At the same time, as memories do surface, I have already let go of the emotional attachment to or trapped energy signature. It will show me just how much I have grown. It is only my intention to share my story with you to possibly be an example to help you to release whatever you may be holding on to within your energetic signature body memory that is no longer serving you. These signatures can and will throw up blocks into our spiritual growth, which will keep us from being the highest expression of ourself. by blinding us from being able to see the beautiful being of light and creator we already are and always have been. In sharing my story with you, I will use such things as the Bible, astrology, supernatural tenets, and other beliefs I have encountered along the way. Please understand, these were my truths along my pathway, just as you have your own truths and are journeying on your own pathway. So again, I ask you to read this with not only an open mind, but with an open heart. Every morning I start my Wake Up with Deb on Facebook Live by bringing the love that we have within us to projecting that love outside of us. This is how we are going to begin Wake Up to the Alchemy of our heart. So now I would encourage you to just take in a deep breath. And now let it out. Now, on your next breath in, just go inside yourself. Go into those memory banks of your heart and find that memory in which you experienced love. It could be the first time you ever held a kitten or a puppy or a newborn baby. All newborn humans and animals are great big balls of love. They emit the chemical oxytocin, which is produced through love. It could be a song that brings a smile to your heart and then to your face. It could be just a color. Hold that moment in your heart space. Now, take that moment and turn it into pink light. Then see that pink light shining from your heart space and let that pink light flood your entire body. Let it flow into your circulatory system, your nervous system, your muscles and bones. Let it course through your body, lighting up pink along the way. Let it build up until it floods so brightly that you can no longer contain it within your physical body. Now, let it explode from within you. Let it explode from out of your heart, your back, your head, your feet. Feel it shoot out of your body and into the room you are in. Let it flood through your living space and out of the walls as it joins with the pink light of others. See that pink light flood the streets of your neighborhood, your city, your state, your country. As you focus on that loving pink light, feel your body lift its own vibration as it gets higher. See yourself lifting into space and looking at the pink light from you and everyone else flood this beautiful planet Earth with that love as it expands into the universe. Now that we have reached this lighthearted space, I will continue on to my story. Again, if you've just joined me, I'm reading from my book, Wake Up to the Alchemy of Your Heart. I have decided that instead of trying to work hard to get it on audio, to get it out there, that I am going to read it to you on Facebook, and I'm also recording it to also upload it onto YouTube. Chapter 1, Finding Balance. It must have been in the pretty high temperatures on that hot summer day when my mother went into true labor with me. I say true labor because I have heard stories of the many trips to the hospital that my mother took when I felt like I wanted to make my appearance into this world, and then would all of a sudden change my mind about coming out. I must have felt very safe in that warm womb that was my home. It's my understanding that as a Cancer sun sign, we want to stay where we are most comfortable, and we really have no intention of moving out of those comfort zones too quickly. My mother's womb to me represented the shell of the crab of the Cancer, a very safe place. I learned this astrological tidbit about Cancers when I had the opportunity to attend the Leo King Rising Through the Darkness retreat just last November, hosted by David Lawrence Palmer. At the 3-day event, David brought forth very valuable, enlightening, and even life-changing astrological information that has stuck with me ever since. So, back to my birth. I guess the perfect time for me to actually enter this physical world was on June 30th, 1966 at 4:15 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in the great state of Colorado. I chose to be a Cancer sun sign with a Scorpio rising, a Sagittarius moon, my Mercury in Leo, my Saturn in Pisces at 29 degrees, and my Chiron in Pisces. To those who are more versed in astrology, the information I just gave you has great significance and offers quite a bit of insight into who I am. For those who know nothing about astrology, I will explain more of the significance of those planets and the signs throughout the chapters of this book. I listened to the stories of my mother and father told me about the birth of my siblings and myself. I am the middle child of 4. I have a sister who is 4 years older, a brother who was 2 years older, who is now in spirit and left his body through the means of Lou Gehrig's disease on Halloween morning, 2004, and a younger sister who is 3 years my junior. My mother told me stories about how the birthing procedures changed through the years. One story she recalls is when my brother was born, she was not allowed to have her bare feet touch the floor. As a matter of fact, she always had to wear socks or slippers when leaving her bed to use the bathroom or to walk anywhere. My mother did not know this, or otherwise she would have packed her slippers. So, when I was ready to make my entrance, she made sure to pack her slippers, spurred by the memories of the nurse's constant reminders to have something on her feet. I can almost see my mother smiling when it was my time to make my appearance, as she presented her slippers, knowing she was prepared this time around. To her dismay, however, the policy had changed to her only putting her bare feet on the floor for I think it was blood circulation purposes. Back then, the father was not allowed in the birthing room during the delivery. So the father was welcome to pace in the waiting room with the other fathers while the deliveries happened. My father worked mostly out of town, so he ended up having to drive quite a distance to get to the birth of his children. When my father finally arrived, he took a designated place along with the other waiting fathers in the hospital waiting room, awaiting my and the other babies' arrivals. When I finally decided it was time for me to make my appearance, and my mother pushed me out of my comfort zone, the nurse immediately brought me to my father to show him his beautiful baby daughter. My father was excited to see me. However, his attention was drawn to my right foot. It appeared that it was twisted around the calf of my leg. The nurse explained to him that the deformity was called a clubbed foot because the foot looked like a club. While my father talked with the nurse, the doctor came into the waiting room and explained to my father that baby's bones are so soft that the deformity could be corrected by bending my foot and calf bone around and casting it. So, sure enough, just hours after I was born, my right foot was bent around and molded into place and casted. I actually had that very first cast up until Hurricane Andrew hit our home in Florida. My grandmother even had it spray painted gold. My cast had a piece of metal sticking out of it from which a Dennis Brown bar could be attached. The sole purpose of that would be to form my foot and leg to be usable as I grew older. I guess that bar also kept me from rolling over in my crib and having the freedom to move while I was sleeping. It is now my understanding that not having the freedom and experiencing that bounding just set me up for wanting to have my freedom even more throughout my lifetime. What a journey my soul had planned for me. I'm going to take a quick drink. Again, thank you for joining me for this Wake Up with Deb. Like I said before, those of you who are just joining me now, I just wanted to read my book to you. It's a free message and everyone should have it. I've been trying really hard to get it on audio and have run into problems time after time. I've bought equipment to get it on audio. And so last night, before I went to bed, whoops, there went my microphone. Last night before I put my head on my pillow, the thought came to me to just go ahead and read this to you. So I'm on chapter 1 on page 3. My mother told me a story of how one time I was crying when I was a couple of months old and she had laid me down upstairs for my nap. Well, upstairs was only a few stairs in our home. I guess something must have startled my slumber, so I began to cry. She remembers this particular moment in time because she kept hearing my crying getting closer and closer to her. When her curiosity got the best of her, she began to investigate what was causing this phenomena. To her surprise, she discovered that my 2-year-old brother had taken me out of my crib when he heard me crying. His tender heart must have felt I needed to be with my mother, so he carried me down the stairs the best he could so that I could be with my mom. I guess when I was an infant, having that clubbed foot and correcting it by just bending the bones around inflicted quite a lot of pain on me, so I cried quite a bit. Growing up, my brother was very curious about my foot being in that cast, and he seemed to be quite the helper when he felt like it, a little ball of love. He could also be quite the giver of grief to me as well. One day, my mother had me in the carrier sitting on the bottom stair ready to go to the doctor. My toes poked out of that cast, and as I share this story with you, this little piggy's rhymes comes to my mind. Well, the little piggies didn't go wee, 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 and wee all the way home. My little piggies ended up in my big brother's mouth. When my mother got me to the doctor, my toes were purple and had bite marks on them. The doctor looked directly at my brother, to which he proudly beamed with a smile. I bit her toes. I was told that during my infant and toddler years, I went through a number of x-rays every 6 to 8 weeks when it was time to change my cast. I guess the x-rays must have been another painful experience because every time I was x-rayed, they would say that they were taking my picture. Needless to say, The result was that I don't have many baby pictures or pictures of me during my first few years because every time I was in front of the camera and they announced they were taking my picture and a smile, I guess those painful memories would come pouring in and I would start screaming and crying just from those words triggering me. These actions really didn't make good Kodak moments, as well as create an energy signature trail left in my body memory, which in turn created an allergy to x-rays. The correcting process of my clubbed foot was long and hard. I had to have special shoes while I was an infant. Even as I grew older, I had to have two different sizes of shoes because my right foot varied so much from my left. My parents had to go to a mismatched store for my shoes. The only shoes that were available and affordable were saddle Oxfords. To this day, as my granddaughter would say, they are not my favorite. I have included this picture below. It is my footprints when I was born, just to give you an idea of how different my feet were. I'm not sure how well you can see that picture, but I'll put it up there. It honestly looked like I have two different sized feet. I told you this part of my life to tell you this. As I look back on my different experiences through my almost, at the time of writing, this 52-year incarnation from this planet, I can see the reasons on a soul level why I chose to go through the blessings plus lessons equals blessings I went through. In this particular case, in my choosing to be born with a clubbed foot, I put myself into an immediate situation of needing to find my balance. Walking, dancing, and running have always been a challenge for me, and one that I, even to this day, put great focus on just to maintain planted on my own 2 feet. The old cliche of being able to chew gum and walk at the same time was quite the challenge for me to meet. I must have really wanted to imprint how important balance would be in my life. So my soul used something that comes so easily to others as putting one foot in front of the other to move forward, to use as my vehicle to find my balance while walking on literally two differently sized feet. My right foot, which is noticeably smaller than the other, has always kept my attention on finding and maintaining my balance, as I do sometimes stumble. This has not only challenged me in a physical sense, but has also driven me to find and maintain my balance emotionally and spiritually as well. The really good thing is that every time I meet this challenge, it seems to jettison me forward and allow me to become more of a master in being able to be just in a beautiful state of flowing from one present moment into the next. For it is in that now and present moment where we create. And it is in that moment where we are the most powerful. It wasn't easy though. It took 45 years to get to this place. And I know it isn't finished, as there is more work to do. Today though, I am in such gratitude for giving myself that challenge because each day when I am aware of it, and having that awareness makes the world a more stress-free and beautiful school to continue to learn and grow and thrive in. Without this challenge or another people's perceptions, bad thing that happened to me, I know I wouldn't be who I am today, my highest expression of myself, which is better known as love. As I said before, I was quite the rebel, and I had trouble with figures who had authority over me. And I recall a story my mom told me when I was no more than a toddler, and she had made stew for dinner. Well, I guess in my mind, stew wasn't what I wanted to savor the flavor of. So in the middle of my protest of my expressing my severe dislike to the dinner choice, otherwise called a huge tantrum, complete with screaming and crying, my parents decided that in order for them and my other siblings to enjoy their dinner, I would dine alone in the confines of my room. Dining alone evidently was not what I had in mind. I really didn't want to dine on that particular entree that my mom had served up. So my high chair was moved into my room and I was bounded to it where I could eat my stew. In my protest to my new dining conditions, I picked up the entire bowl and threw it. This action resulted in the walls of my room decorated with the red coloring of the tomato stew. Of course, I was severely disciplined from the choice that I had made. To make my communicating even more clear and concise, so that others could understand my discontent and or unhappiness with a situation, I, in my creativity, designed a way of literally throwing myself onto the ground and throwing an extremely dramatic temper tantrum. I had a way to bring my temper tantrum to its ultimate and highest level by somehow popping my hip in and out of its socket. As I sit here sharing this with you in my almost 52-year-old mind, cannot even fathom how in my younger years I could do that. Now, in my older age, I have experienced such things as dislocating my shoulder a few times, which is simply throwing your shoulder out of joint, and in my experience is a very painful state. So, popping my hip in and out of joint must have been painful as well. Of course, I have no memory of how it felt or even performing that hip popping act. In my younger years, though, I would throw so many of those temper tantrums that my father actually became worried about it affecting my ability to walk when I became older. In his concerned state of mind, he decided to consult my doctor. Now, the doctor's advice back then was completely different from what you would hear today, and I would like to think that the medical field has come further today than it was back then. The advice the doctor gave my father was to take one of two choices. The first choice was to allow my doctor to put me into a body cast for a while until my behavior no longer resulted in me not wanting to damage my own body anymore through my own free will. Or the second option was to spank me when I began to exhibit such behavior. My father must have thought about the first option of the body cast was too extreme, so he picked the latter of the two. When my will differed from that of another, which could have possibly resulted in my extreme behavior of continuous damage to my own body by literally wearing that ball joint out, my father would remove his belt and say these words: "I love you, and this hurts me more than it hurts you." Then the spanking would commence. I know to this day that my father only acted from a place of love when those moments would happen and not of anger. I tell you though, I was such a rebel and my spankings were sometimes daily that I honestly didn't know that the arms of the couch were called that to rest your arms on. I thought that piece of that furniture was only there to bend over in order for the belt wax to land on my bottom more accurately. You see, in those days, one heard "spare the rod and spoil the child" quite often. As a matter of fact, it seemed to be the gospel in raising children. Unfortunately, I don't think the latter results of that kind of philosophy were even looked into or even addressed. In my own experience, if I were to place myself as a test subject, I would conclude that the psychological result in that kind of thinking during child rearing, as well as many clients I have had the opportunity to work with, actually formed in their minds that the definition of love in our minds was skewed and resulted in what was associated with pain. On the other hand, maybe the love that my father showed me kept me from possibly being a cutter later in life. After all, I was becoming quite the pro at damaging my own body and causing my own pain. It had to be a hard decision for my father to make and follow through with. I love and am in gratitude for whatever the choice my dear father made, though. I love you, Dad. Now, back to associating love with pain. Isn't it funny how the majority of pop songs associate love with pain? The well-known group Nazareth sang that love hurts. Joan Jett sang a song called Love is Pain. And even Tina Turner hit it big when she brought out the lyrics that love is just a second-hand emotion. We are even taught in Sunday school that Jesus loved us so much that he suffered and died for us. In this perception and constant reminder that love is pain, no wonder why we all have completely lost what love truly is. In this book, Wake Up to the Alchemy of Your Heart, I promise you that by the time you finish reading the words on the last page, you will know what love is. And not only that, you will be able to apply real, unconditional love to your daily life, which will empower you should you choose to be loved. You too can live a very happy, stress-free life. And with that, I just finished reading chapter 1 of Wake Up to the Alchemy of Your Heart. I'm going to do this daily. So this is what Wake Up with Deb is going to be, is me reading the book that I wrote to you as my gift to you to help raise the vibration. Because there's so much going on right now out there. And if we could all pick something to do to help raise the vibration, we are saying, no, I do not consent to this plan that has been planned out for a long time. I thought it very interesting, the post that I made today. When I woke up today, I went onto Facebook, and there was that post from the 2012 Olympics